Hello everybody, and welcome to this next course where we are going to see the classification of the ecological factors and the adaptation of the living organisms toward these factors. So this classification can be based on various criteria, including their origin, their dependence on the population, dependence or independence on the population density, and of course according to their nature. So when we talk about their classification according to their origin, so abiotic factors, which includes physical and chemical factors such as temperature, the light, the water, the pH, the soil composition, and of course the air quality. And we are when we talk about biotic factors, so these includes living organisms such as plants, animals, and microorganisms, including the interaction and the relationship within their ecosystem. We saw last time that abiotic plus biotic equals ecosystem. When we talk about the classification according to whether they're dependent or independent density, here we are talking about species abundance. So the density dependent factors such as the competition for resource and production vary in intensity according to the population size of the species. So when we are talking about the density and dependence factors, so these factors such as nature disaster like the floods, like the wildfires, and the climatic events that could occur like droughts, like hurricanes, etc. So these factors affect these independent factors affect populations regardless to their size. So when we are talking about the classification according to their nature, here we are talking about the edaphic factors. So these are soil, these are factors that are related to soil that influence the distribution and the abundance of the organisms. We have also climatic factors. It includes temperatures, precipitation, humidity, the wind also, and of course other many other weather related variables. We have also topographics factors. So these factors include, when we are talking about topographic here, we are talking about elevation, the slopes, the aspect, and the soil or the terrain characteristics. There are also hydrological factors that are related with, of course, water. So when we see hydro, it is related with water availability, including the surface of the water, the groundwater, and the hydrological cycles. So each of these classification could help us to understand the complex interaction between the living organisms and their environment, and contributing to our knowledge of the ecosystem and its biodiversity. So, the action of ecological factors on living organisms encompasses various influences that affect their growth, their survival, their reproduction, and distribution. So, here are the main ecological factors and their effect. So we are going to talk about the climatic factors, which are abiotic factors, like the temperature, the water, the sunlight, and many other climatic factors. So all these factors we are going to see in detail in our tutorials. So with the temperature, it determines metabolic rate and enzyme activity, which is a physiological function. So extremes in temperature can be lethal or limit biological activity. When we talk about the water, we all know that water is essential for the life process of all the organisms, including the hydration, nutrient transport, and the metabolic reaction. So availability of the water is very important, and it affects the habitat sustainability and species distribution. When we talk about the sunlight here, or the light, so it controls the photosynthesis of the plant. It is known that the light controls without the light we don't have the photosynthesis. So it regulates the circadian rhythm in animal and influences behavior, the reproduction and migration. So the circadian rhythm in animals, we are going to see what does it mean in the next slides. There are also other climatic factors like the snow, the wind, etc. So, as we said earlier, the temperature here is a crucial ecological factor that influences the distribution, the behavior, and the physiology of the living organisms. So, how now we are going to see how this factor or the temperature affects them. So, we have what we call the tolerance limit. The tolerance limit here, as we know, every species have a level of temperature which it can survive and function optimally. This means that these limits vary among species and can depend on factors such as the evolutionary history, the habitat of the species, and their adaptation. So, upper and lower temperature levels beyond which organism cannot survive are known as the tolerance limit. So it means that it is where vital activities are possible. That's what tolerance limits means. For example, some species known as stenotherm species have a slight or a small tolerance limit and are only able to survive within a limited temperature levels. Others that are called eutherms, they have a broader range of temperature tolerance and can resist a wide or a large variety of thermal conditions. So we can say that temperature here influences various ecological processes in organisms. For example, it can affect the rate of biochemical reactions, for example, the enzyme activity, the metabolic rate, etc. So changes in temperature can also impact the behavior patterns like the migration of many species, the hibernation, the reproduction, etc. So we can give an example of aquatic organism. Here the temperature play a crucial or important role in determining the distribution of species, the productivity of the species, and also the availability of the oxygen in the water, for example. Whereas in terrestrial ecosystem, temperature affects the soil process like plant growth and the activity of many animals. So the effect of temperature on living organisms, to have a better idea. So we said that the temperature significantly impacts it have an impact on the living organisms, influencing their distribution, their behavior, and their physiological process. So, in temperature can exert a profound influence on the vital activities of the living organisms. For example, in warmer temperature, it accelerates the metabolic rate and physiological process. When this happened, it could lead to increased energy and the growth rate. As a result, organisms may consume more food to meet their energy demands, which can promote faster development and maturation. In addition, warmer temperature can increase productive output by increasing fecundity, so the number of eggs produced, for example, and the fertility, which is the possibility of successful fertilization. In some cases, also water temperature can also reduce the number of generation, allowing for more rapid population growth. However, in extreme temperature or prolonged exposure to high temperature can disturb this process. So when it happens, it can lead to reduce the food eating, for example, or delay the development of the living organism, and also it can decrease the reproductive success. So maintaining the optimal temperature here is essential for maximizing the productivity and the potential of the size of population. Next, we have the effect of temperature on species localization. So, the effect of temperature on species localization is important, and it plays a role in determining the geographical distribution of the organism. So the temperature here influences the physiological process, the behavior, and also the ecological request of the species. And eventually it affects also their spatial distribution. For example, when we talk about the microclimate or habitat selection, here the species often they select habitats that offer temperatures within their preferred range. I can give an example of the cold-blooded organisms. We all know that cold-blooded organisms like the reptiles. So the reptiles here, when they are exposed to the sun areas to regulate their body temperature, while other may seek to cooler environment during the period of high heat, or where the temperature is increasing. The altitude also can affect on living organisms. So temperature generally decrease with an increase in altitude. So when the altitude is increasing, the temperature here is decreasing. As a result, species distribution often change along altitudinal gradient. So many organisms, especially plants and animals, adapted to cooler temperature may be found at higher elevation. So why they are found in higher elevations? Because the temperatures are more suitable for their survival. The exposure here, we are talking about the sun exposure, south or north exposure. So here in the south exposure slope, so they receive more and direct sunlight than the north slopes. So in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, so there are changes in the temperature. So this variance in the solar radiation in the south and in the north exposure can lead to differences in the temperature, in the humidity level, and vegetation composition between the south and the north. Also, when we talk about the geographical distribution, here different species have specific thermal tolerance which define the range of temperatures. So the range of temperatures here which can survive and reproduce. So some species are adapted to warmer climates. They are adapted to warmer climates, so they may have a narrow thermal tolerance limit, and they can be restricted to tropical or, for example, subtropical region. While those that are adapted to cooler temperature, they may inhabit temperature or temperate or polar region. So the temperature also can have a significant impact on the population density. How it could be significant in several ways. For example, excessive multiplication. Excessive multiplication here, for example, in a warmer temperature, can sometimes facilitate rapid population growth among some species. For example, in increased temperatures may accelerate the rate of reproduction and the development. So this, when it happens, this leads to larger population size. In some cases, this rapid multiplication can result in population exposure, or where the population grow at unsustainable rate and exceed the carrying of capacity of their environment. So when the excessive multiplication occur, it can have ecological consequences, including competition for the resources. For example, habitat degradation, and also the impacts on other species within the ecosystem. When we are talking about the extinction here, extinction events, here, on the other hand, extreme temperatures are when the temperature fluctuation is extreme. This can also contribute to population declines and even extinction. So species adapted to specific temperature range may have problems, or they may struggle to cope with sudden to adapt with sudden change in temperature, or prolonged exposure to temperature outside their tolerance limit. So high temperature can increase the physiological stress, it can reduce productive success, and even it can lead to a higher mortality rate among the individuals. In addition to that, when the temperature related with the heat wave, it is what we call it, the heat wave, it can bring droughts or cold snaps that can directly impact the population by causing a very important mortality or habitat loss. So over time, repeated exposure to unfavorable temperature condition, it can drive the population to an extinction, particularly if they are unable to adapt or migrate to more suitable habitats. So we are continuing to talk about the adaptation to extreme temperature. So this extreme temperature can involve several strategies that organisms can adopt to survive and adapt in environments where the temperatures are either very high or very low. The types of adaptation here, we can cite the morphological adaptation. The morphological adaptation here means that some organisms develop a special physiological or physical characteristic to adapt with extreme temperature. So, for example, there are animals in a cold region that may have thicker thicker coats or thicker furs to better retain the body heat, while those that are living in hot region, they may have larger ears to dissipate heat, for example. So there are variable forms of adaptation, whether the temperature is low or is high. We can also give an example of Arctic fox. The Arctic fox have thick fur also, and a dense undercoat that help them retain the body heat in the cold winter. In contrary, in the desert, we have many plants that have that they reduce the surface of the leaves or the waxy coating to minimize water loss. So in the leaves of these plants, it develop a waxy coating. We call it waxy coating, or the cuticle here um, develop or increase the greasy coating on the surface of the leaf to minimize water loss and adapt to the high temperature. The next form of type of adaptation, we have the physiological adaptation. So here the organisms, we can also call it acclimatization. So here the organism can adjust their metabolism and biological process to respond to extreme temperature conditions. For instance, some animals may slow down their metabolism during the period of extreme cold to conserve their energy. We have also, for example, many cold-blooded animals like reptiles and amphibians. So these animals can adjust their metabolic rate based on ambient temperature. So they are adjusting their metabolic rate by slowing it down or increasing it based on the temperature. So they become more active in warmer condition and slow down their activity in colder condition. Also, certain bacteria can adapt in extreme environment, like the hot springs, by having enzymes and cellular structures that remain stable at high temperature, for example. So what we understand here is that the increased or decreased in metabolism is a physiological adaptation that many animals can use to the extreme temperatures in winter and in summer. Next, we have the ecological adaptation, and we can call it the behavioral adaptation. So here, organisms' behavior can change in response to extreme temperatures. For example, nocturnal animals means that the animals that are active during the cooler nighttime. Nocturnal means activity in the night. So they so they are more active during the night time because it is more cooler than the or during the day. Also, some birds like vultures, for example, they fly at high altitude during the hottest part of the day. Why? It is because to conserve the energy and avoid the overheating. So some animals also do the gregarious behavior. The gregarious behavior here means that they live in group, so they gather each other in groups, so they can keep their heat together. So these different adaptation or different strategies of adaptation allow different and many organisms to survive and adapt in variety of extreme temperature and thermal conditions, and it could contribute to their evolution and survival in the harsh environments. So here we are going to talk about the classification of living organisms according to their water needs. So this classification typically includes the following categories. So it is very important to know the difference between all these terms and all these categories. So we begin with hydrophilic species. Here are the aquatic organisms that require water for their survival. For example, the fish. The fish is an aquatic species. The fish cannot live outside the water. There are also many amphibians and aquatic plants like the ninnifaris here. So there are aquatic organisms. So hydrophilic species are aquatic organisms that require water for their survival. Next, we have the hygrophilic species. So these organisms increase in or develop in environments with high humidity level, such as rainforest, for example, ecosystem of rainforest, or a wetland. So they require humidity for various physiological process. For example, certain amphibians, certain fungi, and mosses. So hygrophilic species are close to saturation relative humidity. Next, we have the mesophilic species. Mesophilic species, so they are organisms that have moderate water requirement, and they can tolerate fluctuations between wet and dry season, or wet and dry condition. So they are commonly found in temperate region where the water availability varies according to season. For example, many terrestrial plants like insects and small mammals live in mesophilic, are mesophilic, or live in a mesophilic condition. So I repeat, the mesophilic species, they need a moderate need of water. They tolerate alternation of dry and wet periods. Finally, we have the xerophilic species. So, xerophilic species here, they are organisms that are adapted to dry or completely dry environment and can survive with minimal water availability. So they are organisms that tolerating a high degree of dryness, like for example species from the Sahara region, which is known by its extreme condition. So here the xerophilic species have often specialized structures or physiological mechanisms to conserve the water and survive to drought condition. Here the example that I can give for these species like the cacti and as well as certain insect and reptiles that are organisms tolerating the high degree of dryness. For the water balance and metabolism in living organism, here we are talking about the inputs and the outputs of the water and the different the different absorption of water through the inputs and the outputs. We begin with the inputs, so we have the direct absorption through the digestive system or the root system. So it is a process by which organisms take in and out water. So this absorption occurs through specialized structures in animals and in plants. So we have we have digestive system. When we talk about digestive system here, we are talking about the animals, because the plants don't have this system, which is the digestive system. So the animals, in the animals, water can be absorbed through the digestive area. So water is mostly absorbed in the intestine, particularly the large intestine, and then it is going to facilitate the diffusion of the water in the body. The root system here, in contrary to digestive system, the root system is a process that is typically done by the plants. So in the plants, the water is absorbed through the root system. So the roots here, which are tiny extensions, the root hairs are tiny extensions of the root epidermal cells. So it increases the surface area available for the absorption. Water is absorbed when the water is absorbed, it could facilitate by the presence of the, it could be facilitated by the presence of the root hair here. Then when it is absorbed by the root, it can be activated to transport process in the root cell and then to all the parts of the plants. The next point of the inputs here, we are talking about the penetration through the cuticle or the integument. Integument here means external develop. So this refers to the process which by which the organism absorb water or nutrients directly through their outer protective layers. So this process is mainly observed in the organisms with specialized adaptation for absorbing substances through their external surface. Here we can give an example about the external surface, such as the insect and certain plants. So we have direct absorption through the digestive system or the root system for the plant. We have penetration through the cuticle or integuments, which is an external develop for certain insects and some plants also. We have also the utilization of metabolic water. So before I talk about the utilization of metabolic water, the cuticle or the integuments here. When we talk about the cuticle, here we are talking about insects. Insects have an external covering which is called the cuticle. The cuticle here serves to prevent water loss and protect against environmental condition. So they also many insects also have specialized structures such as the spiracle. Spiracle here means the opening and the closure of the cuticle, and they allow for the absorption of the gas, water, and many other nutrients. So water and nutrients can penetrate the cuticle here, and then they can do the diffusion of or specialized transport of the different mechanisms that are absorbed. While the integuments here are present in plants and some animals. So in plants, the integuments refers to the outer protective layers of structure like seeds or eggs. So these integuments can be permeable to water and other nutrients, which allow for the absorption from the surroundings environment. For example, in seeds, water can be penetrated to the seed coat through the small pores or openings and initiating the process of germination. So similarly, in some animals, such as certain aquatic larvae, the integuments may also allow for the exchange of gases, of water, and with the surrounding environment. Next, the utilization of metabolic water. Here we mean that the ways in which the organism obtain water through the metabolic process with their bodies. So this water can come from two sources, like performed water, which is water which is already present in the organism, and the metabolic water. So the performed water is already present in the food that we consume by the organism, and the metabolic water. The metabolic water here generates through the oxidation of the reserves. So the performed water, to better understand, is the water that is already present within the food that we consume. So many foods, especially fruits, vegetables, contain a significant amount of water, as we all know. So when the organism ingests these foods, the water contained within these foods is absorbed during digestion and utilized after by various metabolic processes. When we talk about the metabolic water that is generated by the oxidation, so here the water is generated by the metabolic process within the organism's cell. So during cellular respiration, which is the process by which cell reproduce energy, the organic molecules such as carbohydrates, the fats, and the proteins are oxidized to release what we call the energy. So all these are the mechanisms of inputs of the water in the organism. Now we are going to see the outputs. For the outputs we have the respiration. So the respiration, we know that it is a vital process in living organisms that play a role, important role in water balance and metabolism. So during the process of respiration, the organism actually exchange gas with the environment or with the surroundings, typically taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. So the respiration occurs and happens at the cellular levels and is essential for generating energy and many other functions. We have also excretion like urine and digestion. So excretion here is another important aspect of water balance and metabolism in the organism. So it involves the removal of waste products generated by the cellular metabolism and other physiological process from the body. Another output here is called transpiration, which is a process done by animals, and evapotranspiration, which is typically done by plants. So the transpiration here system, many animals lose the water through breathing. When they breathe, air enters their respiratory system and comes into contact with the lungs and the airways. So as the air is exalted, some of this vapor is carried out of the body, resulting in the water loss. Many animals can do the transpiration by their skin. So also the loss of water through the skin is a process known as the cutaneous transpiration. So the skin here contains the sweat glands, what we call sweat glands, that produce the sweat. So a mixture of water and salt. This is what sweat means. So it is a mixture of water and salt that go out from our body. So when the animals sweat, the sweat next evaporates from the surface of their skin. Then it would cool to the body and it removes the excess of heat. So the next point in the outputs, here we are talking about the evaporation through the integuments. So evaporation here, sorry, I didn't talk about the evapotranspiration for the plants. So here we said that evapotranspiration is exclusively or commonly used by the plants. So the combined process of the water evaporating from the surface of the plant leaves and transpiration from the plant stomach. So the plants absorb water from the soil through their roots and then it is transported to their leaves. Then it evaporates into the atmosphere through small pores that are called stomata. So the evapotranspiration is a very important component of the water cycle and contributes to the movement of water from the soil into the atmosphere. Finally, here we have the evaporation through the integuments. Here it is a process by which water evaporates from the outer covering or surface of an organism's body. It means that integuments here are they are external protective structures or covering that include the skin, the feather, the scales of the animal, as well as the epidermis of the plant. When we give an example, so in animals, the evaporation through the integuments occur through the skin, while the evaporation in plants occur through the epidermis. So many animals have a special skin structure, such as the sweat glands in mammals and glandular cells in amphibians and reptiles that secrete the water onto the surface of the skin. When these fluids or water evaporate, they carry away heat from the body. So when the body discharge of this heat, it is helping to regulate the body temperature in a process known as the evaporative cooling. So in plants, we said that the process is occurred through the epidermis of the leaves. So the plant leaves here have a thin and greasy cuticle covering their surface, which help to reduce the water loss by the evaporation. However, in plants here, the water can still evaporate through small opening called the stomata, which are located in the underside of the leaves. So the stomata here, it opens and it closes to regulate gas exchange and transpiration, and allowing the water vapor to escape onto the atmosphere. So that's all for our session today. I hope that you enjoyed our session and also understood the different form of adaptation of the living organism throughout their factor condition. We talked a lot about temperature. In next session we are going to talk about the other factors, and we are going to talk also about the biotic factors. So I insist to contact me on the Moodle platform. I have created a chat room that you can ask any question that you didn't understand about the first chapter and the second chapter of the course, and I will be, of course, available to answer your questions, and we also will see the tutorials. We are going to begin with abiotic factors. So the first tutorial will be about the water factor. Thank you for assisting, and see you next time. Bye.